Thank you. Again, I'm Rodney Schutt, President and CEO of Orion Innovations. Orion Innovations is a healthcare company with a portfolio of smart, simple, and as importantly, patentable solutions. We're based in St. George, Utah. We have two divisions, an acute healthcare division and an oral healthcare division, and we have multiple high-growth solutions. MedLight ID on the acute healthcare side, it eliminates adverse drug events. It's a patient safety and clinician safety device. On the oral healthcare side, we have no gag. It's a simple solution, consumable, that solves the gag reflex. I'm here trying to close out our Series A. We have about $3.5 million of the $10 million in. First, on the acute healthcare side, let's talk about how we solve adverse drug events. If you, hopefully it's not you, a loved one or a friend or family member, if you found yourself in the ICU, you have realized you have, on average, globally 8 infusion lines that are connected to your body. Unfortunately, that number can be staggeringly higher, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. The error rates in this procedure, if you will, you wouldn't get in your car, you wouldn't fly home if it was 1/10 of a 1% error rate that happens in the ICU and across the hospital and healthcare system. The Kane-Gill study says for every line you add to the human body beyond the first one, there's a 3% cumulative aggregate error rate. So just those 8 lines on average is 21%. So your heart goes out to the clinician that has to come in every 2 hours to check on you. In a 24-hour period, they come in on average with 17 plus other drugs to inject into you. Economically, at the hospital level, it's $450,000 per 100 beds. So what's the average number of beds? Easy math says per hospital, it's about $2 million that it costs them to correct, if they're lucky, an adverse drug event, which is a drug-to-drug collision. 20% of the nursing sales force left practice during COVID years, so 20% of likely some of the most experienced nurses exited the workforce. So we have new clinicians, if you will, taking care of the sickest patients. So our solution is to make their life easier. Of all those lines connected to you, there's only one that's considered the safe line, the carrier line. It's the saline bag line, the highest single procedure on the planet. As you can see on the right, our 3 permanently attached, wirelessly connected lights identifies that one line. I don't want to say we don't care about the other 7, 10, 12, 14 lines, but there's only one line that is super important to that ICU nurse that comes in every 2 hours, typically with another bolus drug to inject in you. If you look at the current standard of care in the lower left-hand corner, the current standard of care by the Infusing Nursing Society says tape and labels. It doesn't work, hasn't for 50 years. So imagine you're the one coming in with a life-saving drug in your hand because that patient has code blue or coded or crash. Do you want to tear through all those lines finding the right one that's connected to the saline bag? Or do you want to walk in, push MedLight ID in a dark room, and what normally takes 3 minutes to identify and get to this port and push safely now takes less than 10 seconds. In summary, pilot launch since Q2 2022. Just in the last week, we've been issued our 9th utility patent for MedLight ID. That covers Gen 2 and Gen 3 products. We're closer to 55% gross margins. What's significant about Gen 2 and Gen 3 is we now integrate sensors into each one of our lights. So we now can detect air bubbles and precipitates in the line ourselves. Gen 3 working prototype, we now communicate with the infusion pumps. Beck & Dickinson, ICU Medical, for example. So we have interoperability and we feed the EMR. The final pillar of MedLight ID was achieved in December. Wake Forest Advocate, fifth largest health system in the US, did our clinical study against the current standard of care, tape and labels. The results were phenomenal, almost 25% faster than the current standard of care, 0 errors at night, which, as you all know, if you've been in the ICU, it's usually dark anyway. And maybe most importantly, in that workforce that I mentioned, on the NASA scale, 40% less mentally and physically tasking on the clinician. Switching to the other solution on our oral healthcare side, no-gag. No-gag's been launched since a similar time frame. We solve failed dental exams and procedures. Dental's our beachhead. It's where we launched to build brand. It's not the future of no-gag. I'm sure if you've been the patient, we all just love going to the dentist. Love that digital x-ray thing shoved in the back of our mouth, crowns, posts, cleanings, molds. We can't wait to get there. About 10% of the global population, or 800 million people, have a severe gag reflex, which means they can't even really brush their teeth at home. They can't floss. And as we all know, declining oral health care, the lack of taking care of oral health care over time leads to systemic health care issues and comorbidities. So, failed procedures, delayed appointments, mounting, economically $24,000 per patient, $2.8 million in a practice. Again, smart, simple, disposable, patentable, low to no regulatory. No-gag is a 0.5 gram of powder, 5 utility patents, precision blended, 2 common ingredients. The FDA regulates it under 182. It's a GRAS product, generally recognized as safe. It's a food. Takes 10 seconds on the tongue, swallow. It's a biochemical trick on the brain through nerve 9. Your brain thinks you're chewing and swallowing food. 5 utility patents, almost 90% gross margins, double-digit growth every quarter. We just pushed into direct-to-patient or consumer, which they're all the same people. And the future of no-gag is folks that can't swallow life-saving medications, pills. Ridiculous $300 billion global TAM, SAM, and SOM. Our 5-year projections, this isn't a dart at a dartboard. These are deeply modeled. Hospital beds, occupancy, departments, hospital. On the no-gag side, dentist offices, patients, procedures, and then actually what percentage of people can't swallow life-saving medications. You can see from our gross margins, as we are in our growth and scaling mode, we have 3 FTEs in this 2 global businesses. We're not ever FTE heavy, but we scale our revenues and we print cash. As you would expect, what are we going to do with the money? We're going to drive top-line revenue growth, which will have our business cash flow positive in less than 2 years. Krishna and I partnered together over 20 years ago to tackle vein visualization through infrared, which is now a standard of care. We exited that company to $1 billion acquirer. Thank you.